Hi, my name is Marius, and today I wanted to talk to you about why I created Mindliner, uh, how it has helped me to keep in control of my own life, of my business life and also personal life, and how it has freed me up to think about what I to think about what I really want at that moment without being overwhelmed about the million things that go on in other places of the business. When I started Mindliner, it was a time I was CEO of Big and we were about, I don't know, 15 people at the time, and we had lots of ideas about what we wanted to do in all different parts of the business, R&D, marketing, sales. And so at some point, everything I tried to solve was related to something else. So I, there was no place I could safely start and say this was the beginning. And if I solve this problem, I can then solve all the other problems, or I can find all the solutions to the other growth opportunities after having solved that first bit. Everything was linked up to everything else, like it is in life or in businesses. So I could have just, I guess, took a long break, go for a walk in the Himalaya or something like that to find the beginning again. I chose a different route. I said, okay, why do I not map it all out? And so I don't care if it's like 50 things, 100 things, or 50,000 things I have on my mind. There must be an end to it. It must be finite. And so let's just put it into Mindliner. It didn't exist at the time. Put it into a database and also store all the associations with it. That was the start. And let me tell you, before I had this tool, I mean, once, twice, three times a week, I would wake up at 3 in the morning and I had to scribble things down because I almost forgot. And these were important things, at least to me, were important things. So I got up, wrote these things down. Sometimes I wouldn't go back to bed because things started flowing from there. And of course that's not healthy. Not in the long term. It's exciting in the short term. Okay, so I started to implement this database, or this thinking tool actually. And of course I wanted to see it all. So after the first year, I think I've entered 5,000 items. And these are specific, I call these items nullets. These are specific standalone statements, questions, thoughts, opinions, decisions. But they're not long stories. They're just one thing, as standalone as possible, so I could reuse it. The other thought was that if I have 50 copies of the same thought in different documents, it's a nightmare. And we all know that. Everybody who is in software development knows, do one thing once and don't repeat yourself. And redundancies are terrible everywhere. So I wanted one thought in one place, and then when I need it again, I refer to it. I don't copy paste. And so Mindliner started to grow, and with it, of course, came requests like, okay, if we are 2 or 10 or 15 people in a team, and we all contribute, of course, we need tools to see who added one thing and who added the other thing. So we have now ways to colorize maps and graphs so that I can see who created it, and I can also see the links also have colors if I want to. The color of the object can either be modification time. So if I start a meeting, I prepare things in Mindliner, and then I go into the meeting with a map. And let's say everything that I prepared before the meeting is black, and then all the changes show up in red or green or whatever my favorite color is. That's nice, but of course I can also use the owner as a color driver. So I could have one person's notes in blue and my notes are in green, and that's not just for the objects; it's also for the links between the objects. So I can see, okay, these are 2 items that were created by my colleague Joe, but they were actually linked up by my colleague Paula. So I can see who actually starts to use, if the team starts to use each other's thoughts. So for me, as a person who enters a thought into Mindliner, it's great to see what others build with it. It's also great for the others because they don't have to take any time to cite where it's coming from. So the source is always there if people want to know, like, this is my decision. Okay, we're going to stop using product A. We start using product B. With that decision already, at the moment I create a decision, I take the decision, it's already linked up to all the input data that actually drove me to that decision. I don't have to document it anymore. It's there. Yeah, so that's basically the story of Mindliner. Let me tell you, it really worked for me great. I sleep much better. It never happens, absolutely never happened again that I would wake up and in shock of over almost having forgotten an important item. That does not happen anymore. I'm also not anxious to not find things anymore. It's there. If I learn something new worthwhile for me to carry forward in my life, I just enter it. If I don't have the time to link it up to where I should link it up, I just enter it as a standalone item. And in later, and that, I think that's important. Without it, Mindliner is not really that great tool that it is when you do it. You can, so I enter information and then I link it up at a later time point when I'm, when I don't have time. And this linking up process is very important, obviously. Many tools help us to link things up. Google is great at this. In Mindliner, I wanted more control over what I link up. I don't want a machine to tell me that two things actually are associated. I don't want that machine to drive my thoughts. I want my thoughts to drive the machine. So when I make a human link, it has a completely different quality than a bot link or a machine link of any kind. It's a human link. A person associated two pieces of information or associated a story with a decision has a much higher quality. Or a person entered a nullet by keyboard. This has a much higher quality than a robot that sucked out some text out of some huge chunk document that may or may not be relevant to what I'm doing. So Mindliner keeps this really separate. Of course, you can import things into Mindliner. It would be silly if you have to type it all up, but it will come in at a different quality level. The highest quality level is the objects you type into it with your keyboard or the pictures you take to make a point. Everything that has a human action and a direct human relationship comes in at a much higher quality level, and you can choose to just search in this information, or you can expand your search if you wish to documents, to indexed documents, which Mindliner does as well. So that's the story. Now, okay, here is your tool.